The black Mercedes screeched to a halt as Shanice Washington watched something impossible unfold before her eyes. The homeless man she'd just given her last $20 to was now standing in the middle of Peachtree Street, surrounded by men in expensive suits. One of them held an umbrella over his head while another spoke urgently into a phone. The tattered blanket fell from his shoulders, revealing an immaculate Tom Ford shirt underneath. "Wait," Shanice whispered, her hand frozen on her car door handle. "That can't be right." The man turned, and their eyes met across the busy Atlanta intersection. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The morning traffic, the honking horns, the smell of hot asphalt. All of it faded. His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. He wasn't just any homeless man. And judging by the Rolex that now gleamed on his wrist as he raised his hand toward her, he never had been. Marcus Bennett, the Marcus Bennett, CEO of Bennett Industries, the same man whose face graced the cover of Forbes magazine last month, had been sitting on that corner for 3 hours. The same corner where Shanice stopped every morning to buy coffee from the food truck. The same corner where she'd seen him yesterday and the day before that, always with that same cardboard sign. Hungry. Anything helps. God bless. She'd given him money each time. Not much. She was a second-grade teacher working 2 jobs to pay off student loans, but she always gave something. This morning, she'd given him her grocery money, the last cash in her wallet until payday on Friday. Now, as one of the suited men began walking toward her car, Shanice's mind raced. Was this some kind of sick joke? A social experiment? Her fingers trembled as she reached for her keys. But then Marcus himself stepped forward, waving off his assistant. He was walking. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus Bennett sat in his corner office on the 45th floor, staring at the engagement ring in his palm. It was a 4-carat diamond, flawless, worth more than most people's houses. He'd bought it for Vanessa Price, the woman he'd been dating for 8 months. The woman who, just 2 hours ago, he'd overheard telling her friend the truth. "Of course I don't love him," Vanessa had laughed into her phone, not knowing Marcus had returned early from his business trip. "But do you know how much he's worth? 5.3 billion, girl. I can pretend to love anyone for that kind of money. Once we're married, I'll wait the required time, divorce him, and never work another day in my life." Marcus had walked out of his penthouse without a word, leaving Vanessa still chattering away in his bedroom. He'd driven for hours, his mind replaying every relationship he'd ever had. College girlfriend who sold their story to tabloids. The actress who only wanted him for career connections. The socialite who'd tried to trap him with a fake pregnancy. 20 years of building an empire, and he couldn't buy the one thing money couldn't guarantee: genuine love. His best friend and attorney, Deshaun Williams, had found him at midnight in his office, staring at the city lights below. "Man, you look terrible," Deshaun said, setting down 2 glasses of bourbon. "Vanessa's been calling everyone trying to find you." "It's over," Marcus said flatly. "I heard her real plan." Deshaun wasn't surprised. He'd never trusted Vanessa. "So what now?" Marcus turned from the window, and Deshaun recognized that look. It was the same expression Marcus had worn when he decided to start his company with nothing but a business plan and determination. "I'm going to find out if genuine goodness still exists. If there's anyone out there who would help a person with nothing."
"How?"
"I'm going to become invisible. Just another face in the crowd that people ignore." Marcus picked up his glass. "I'm going to find someone who sees people, not bank accounts. Someone with a good heart." "You're talking about going undercover?" "As what, homeless?" Deshaun shook his head. "That's crazy, Marcus." "Maybe. But I need to know if real love is possible, or if I'm destined to be alone." Marcus downed his bourbon in one swallow. "Money solved every problem in my life except the ones that actually matter. Time to see what happens when I take it away." Deshaun studied his friend's face and realized nothing would change his mind. "How long?" "As long as it takes." Now, standing on Peachtree Street in clothes he bought from a thrift store, Marcus had his answer. For 3 weeks, he'd sat on various corners, watching thousands of people pass by. Most looked through him like he was invisible. Some muttered insults. A few threw change without making a— Shanice's hand hovered over the gear shift, ready to drive away, but something made her stay. Maybe it was the vulnerability in Marcus's eyes, so different from the calculated confidence she'd expect from a billionaire. Maybe it was the way he held up both hands in a gesture of peace, asking permission to approach rather than assuming he could. She rolled down her window halfway. "You've got 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't call the police right now." Marcus stopped a respectful distance from her car. Up close, without the grime and careful posture of defeat, he was strikingly handsome. But Shanice pushed that thought away. Rich men playing games with people's lives made her sick. "My name really is Marcus," he started. "And I know this looks terrible, but I need you to understand, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was trying to find someone real." "By lying? By taking money from people who actually struggle?" Shanice's voice shook with anger. "Do you know what I gave up this morning? That was my grocery money. I was going to eat ramen all week, so I could help someone I thought needed it. But it was just entertainment for you, wasn't it? Research for some reality show."
"No."
Marcus's voice was firm. "Shanice, please. How do you know my name?" She felt a chill run down her spine. "You told me 3 days ago. You asked my name, then you offered yours. You said it was only fair since we kept running into each other." His expression softened. "You also told me you were a teacher at Westview Elementary, that you have a sister named Keisha in nursing school, that your mother raised you both alone after your father passed when you were 10. Shanice remembered. She talked to him, to who she thought was Michael, like he was a person worth knowing. She'd shared pieces of her life during those brief morning conversations because he'd seemed genuinely interested, genuinely kind. Now those memories felt tainted. "Those were real conversations," Marcus continued, as if reading her thoughts. "Nothing about the way you made me feel was fake. Yes, I wasn't homeless. Yes, I have money. But everything else was real. The way you saw me as human when everyone else looked through me. The way you cared, even when you had every reason to keep your resources for yourself." One of the suited men approached. "Mr. Bennett, we need to get you. Give me a minute, Jerome." Marcus didn't take his eyes off Shanice. "Mr. Bennett, your mother is worried sick. And you have the board meeting in 2 hours." I said, "Give me a minute." The authority in his voice was undeniable. Jerome retreated. Shanice watched this exchange, her mind trying to reconcile the humble man she'd been talking to with this version who commanded respect with a single sentence. "What do you want from me?" A chance to explain properly. "Please. Lunch today. My treat, obviously." He attempted a small smile. "I owe you at least $60 by my count. I don't want your money." "I know. That's exactly why I'm asking." Shanice should have said no. Every logical part of her brain screamed to drive away from this bizarre situation. But there was something in his eyes, a loneliness she recognized because she'd felt it herself. Working 2 jobs, watching friends get married and start families while she struggled just to pay bills, wondering if she'd ever find someone who valued her for more than what she could provide. "One lunch," she finally said. "Somewhere public. And you're going to tell me everything." Relief washed over Marcus's face. "There's a soul food restaurant on Auburn Avenue. Mama Jean's. Do you know it?" Shanice almost smiled despite herself. Mama Jean's was where regular people ate, not Billy. Mama Jean's was packed with the lunch crowd when Shanice arrived at 5 minutes past noon. She'd changed out of her work clothes into a simple blue dress, then changed back into jeans and a blouse, then changed again. Finally, she'd forced herself to stop. This wasn't a date. This was an explanation she deserved. Marcus was already there, sitting in a corner booth. He changed too, dark jeans and a simple black Henley. Without the designer suit or the homeless disguise, he looked almost normal. Almost. "You came," he said, standing as she approached. "I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't." Shanice slid into the booth across from him. "I called my sister. She thinks I'm crazy. Is she nearby? In case you need backup?" There was no judgment in his voice, just understanding. "She knows where I am. And I have 911 ready on my phone." Shanice met his eyes. "Now talk." For the next hour, Marcus told her everything. His voice was quiet, raw with honesty. He explained about Vanessa, about the string of relationships that had taught him to trust no one, about building a company from nothing, only to realize that success had isolated him in ways poverty never had. When you're rich, everyone wants something, he said, pushing his untouched food around his plate. A job, an investment, a connection, a lifestyle. No one just wants you. I started wondering if that kind of love even existed anymore, or if I'd forever be trapped in relationships with expiration dates. So you pretended to be homeless. Shanice's voice was flat. You do realize how insulting that is to people who actually live that way? I do now. Marcus looked ashamed. I thought I was just making myself invisible to find authenticity. I didn't think about what it meant to play act someone else's genuine suffering. That was wrong. Shanice appreciated the admission, but she wasn't ready to forgive. You could have just dated normally. Kept your money quiet for a while. I tried that. Twice. Both women found out within weeks who I was. You can't hide that kind of wealth for long. Someone always recognizes you, or Googles you, or sees something. He finally looked up. But on that corner, I was a Marcus Bennett CEO. I was just a man people ignored. Except you. Why me, though? Lots of people must have given you money. 37 people gave me money over 3 weeks, Marcus said. Most threw it without looking. 5 stopped briefly. But only you came back every day. Only you asked my name, remembered it, treated me like I mattered. You gave me dignity, Shanice. That's rarer than you know. Shanice felt her anger softening, which frustrated her. She didn't want to understand his perspective. So what now? You found your genuine person. Congratulations. We done here? I'd like to see you again. Marcus's directness caught her off guard. Properly. Honestly. No games, no tests. Just you and me, figuring out if this connection is real. You're serious. Shanice laughed, but it came out bitter. You're a billionaire, Marcus. I'm a second-grade teacher with student loan debt and a car that needs new brakes. We live in different worlds. My mother was a teacher, Marcus said quietly. 3rd grade. She raised me alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Vine City after my father left. I remember eating cereal for dinner and her pretending she wasn't hungry, so I could have more. Every successful thing I've done has been to honor her sacrifice. So no, we're not from different worlds. I just got lucky. Shanice studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle. But all she saw was sincerity. Your mother, is she still teaching? Retired now. Living comfortably, though she still volunteers at her old school twice a week. Says she'd go crazy without kids around. His smile was genuine. She'd like you. Before Shanice could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her principal. Call me ASAP. Important. I need to make a quick call, Shanice said, sliding out of the booth. She stepped outside, her heart already racing with worry. Had something happened at school? Her principal, Mrs. Patterson, answered on the first ring. Shanice, I just got the most interesting call. Someone wants to donate $50,000 to our classroom supply fund. They specifically requested the money go toward your classroom first, then be distributed to others. Do you know anything about this? Shanice's blood went cold. She turned to look through the restaurant window. Marcus was watching her, Shanice dropped to her knees beside Marcus, her teacher training kicking in. She'd been CPR certified for years. It was required for working with children. Call 911 now, she shouted, then turned Marcus on his side as his body jerked violently. Jerome, Marcus's assistant who'd been sitting 3 tables away, was already on the phone with emergency services, his face pale. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Stay with him, please. I'm not going anywhere, Shanice said, though her hands shook as she checked Marcus's breathing. His eyes rolled back, and foam appeared at the corner of his mouth. Poison. Someone had poisoned him. The next few minutes were chaos. Paramedics arrived, asking rapid-fire questions Shanice couldn't answer. Jerome provided Marcus's medical information while Shanice held Marcus's hand, whispering, "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave." At the hospital, Shanice sat in the waiting room, still wearing her clothes spattered with Marcus's saliva. Jerome paced nearby, making urgent phone calls. Other men in suits arrived, security, lawyers, people whose titles Shanice didn't catch. But none of them sat with her. None of them looked as terrified as she felt. Finally, a doctor emerged. He's stable. We pumped his stomach and administered activated charcoal. Preliminary tests show arsenic poisoning, but we caught it early enough. He's asking for Shanice Washington. Shanice stood on shaky legs. That's me. He's been quite insistent. Room 304. Marcus looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to IVs and monitors. But his eyes were alert when she entered. You stayed. Of course I stayed, you idiot. Shanice pulled a chair close, surprised by the tears streaming down her face. You scared me half to death. That makes two of us. His attempt at humor fell flat. The police think it was Vanessa, my ex. Apparently, she found out where I was going today. The woman you overheard? She tried to kill you. Over a breakup and a prenup she'd never get to claim. Marcus reached for Shanice's hand. I'm sorry about the donation. I wasn't trying to buy you. I saw how stressed you were about supplies for your kids. How you buy things with your own money. I wanted to help, but I did it the wrong way. I keep doing things the wrong way with you. Shanice wiped her eyes. You really almost died. Kind of puts things in perspective. His grip on her hand tightened. I spent 3 weeks looking for someone genuine. Then I found you, and nearly messed it up by being the same rich guy I was trying not to be. Money's just made me forget how to be normal. I don't think you were ever normal, Shanice said, but she was smiling now. Who goes undercover as homeless to find love? Someone desperate enough to try anything. Someone who'd given up hope. Marcus's voice grew serious. But then this woman kept stopping to talk to me. Kept seeing me as human. Kept giving from her own need. And I remembered what hope felt like. Shanice thought about the past few hours, the anger, the fear, the realization that when she thought he might die, nothing else mattered. Not the money, not the lies. Just the man who'd listened to her stories about her students and asked questions like her job was the most important thing in the world. So what happens now? She asked softly. Now, I do this right. If you'll let me. Marcus shifted in the bed, wincing. I'd like to take you to dinner. A real date. I'll tell you more terrible things about myself up front, so there are no more surprises. You'll probably run away, but at least I'll have tried. What kind of terrible things? I'm a workaholic. I can't cook anything beyond cereal. I collect vintage comic books, which is embarrassing for a 40-year-old. My mother calls me every single day, and I always answer, which means she'll be calling any minute to interrogate you if you stay. Right on cue, his phone buzzed. Marcus grimaced. That's her. She's already heard I'm in the hospital, and that a woman was holding my hand. Answer it, Shanice said. I want to meet the teacher who raised a man crazy enough to pretend to be homeless. As Marcus talked to his worried mother, Shanice looked around the hospital room. Jerome stood outside, coordinating security. Doctors monitored machines. Somewhere, police were investigating a woman so consumed by greed she'd tried to commit murder. It was all so far from Shanice's normal life of spelling tests and parent-teacher conferences. But it was also a reminder that kindness mattered. That seeing people, really seeing them, could change everything. She'd given a man $20 and thought she was helping a stranger. Instead, she'd found someone as lonely as herself, searching for the same thing, genuine connection in a world that made it harder